All right, very good. We'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. Welcome everybody to the August board meeting. It seems like it's been a while since the last one. We'll go ahead and get started. I'd ask Mr. Foster to give us the invocation. Please stand.
Gracious Father, we are humbled to come into your presence now. We thank you for the many blessings that you've given us. Thank you for St. Petersburg College, its faculty, its students. We thank you for those in this room that are dedicated to expanding knowledge in our community. We pray your blessings upon this institution as we begin a new school year. We just pray for the students that are yearning to learn. We pray for the faculty that are prepared to teach. We just pray that this be a banner year for this college. We pray for this country and the government leaders. We pray that they stop bickering and govern. We pray that you make us stronger and with a loud, unified voice demand respect and honor by those expected to lead us. Father, help us to have a great meeting today. Guide, protect, and keep us. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On to preliminary matters, presentation of retirement resolutions and motion for adoption. First, Beverly Grunset.
How are you? Okay.
Good morning.
You all set?
Yes, sir.
Good. Beverly Grunset, currently the Academic Chair for Biological Sciences at the St. Pete Gibbs campus, began her career at St. Petersburg College in 1990 as an adjunct faculty member in Biological Sciences. She became a full-time faculty member in 1991. And whereas Dr. Grunset, a caring and compassionate instructor who strived for student success throughout her career, also served her colleagues in the college as an FGO member and a St. Petersburg Gibbs campus FGO chairwoman for many years. And whereas Dr. Grunset was a devoted member of the Florida Association of Community Colleges for 10 years, serving in a variety of roles including chairman of the Faculty Commission and vice president of Regions, and whereas Dr. Grunset, over the years, has devoted hours of her time serving as a member of numerous college committees, including the Curriculum and Instruction Committee and the Calendar Committee, as well as participating on a number of search and screening panels for full-time faculty and academic chairs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the St. Petersburg College Board of Trustees and the total college community hereby recognize and appreciate the outstanding contributions to the college by Dr. Beverly Grunset and extend to her our best wishes for enjoyment throughout the years ahead. Said resolution being adopted and approved by the Board of Trustees, St. Petersburg College, this 16th day of August, 2016. Hear, hear.
Yes, sir.
How did you think for the calendar committee?
What can I tell you? I just want to thank SPC for a wonderful career. I've had a great time here. I've made many, many long-lasting friends, including even my students. And I'm just thrilled that I could have been here, and I'm going to miss everybody. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Let's do a picture, okay? Hold on, let me move this out of the way.
This is my mom.
We figured that out, okay? Great. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Congratulations.
Lenona Robinson.
How are you? Okay. There we go. This morning, glad you could be here.
Thank you.
Whereas Nona Robinson, currently a client representative in the Workforce and Professional Development Institute at the Epicenter, began her career as a client account representative for continuing education at the Allstate Center in 2001. And whereas Mrs. Robinson, a dedicated colleague, always willing to give her best to any project, organized more than 25 conferences annually, and produced the college's first active shooter survivor exercise, which brought together law enforcement, healthcare, and first responders. And whereas Mrs. Robinson served 8 years as chairwoman of the Professional Development for the Area Agency on Aging Consortium, and served 3 years on the Education Committee of the Community Health Agencies, and whereas Mrs. Robinson has always valued a quality education, working diligently to receive a master's degree from the University of Phoenix and a certificate in leadership from Eckerd College, she was pleased to be part of the second University of Florida leadership cohort at St. Petersburg College. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the St. Petersburg College Board of Trustees and the total college community hereby recognize and appreciate the outstanding contributions to the college by Mrs. Nona Robinson and extend to her our best wishes for enjoyment throughout the years ahead. Said resolution being adopted and approved by the Board of Trustees, St. Petersburg College, this 16th day of August, 2016. Hear, hear.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. You get this. Would you like to say a word or two?
I want to thank everybody for all the wonderful opportunities at St. Petersburg College. It's been a great privilege for me to be part of this great institution. Thank you very much.
Good. Let's get the official photography. Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, recognitions and announcements. New Executive Director of the Learning Resource Center.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Law. It is my pleasure to introduce the new Executive Director of Learning Resources. Excuse me. Matthew Bodie has 20 years of progressively increasing leadership experience. He joined St. Petersburg College back in 2008 at the Tarpon Springs campus, where he became part of the library team. In 2011, he moved to the Clearwater campus in a new capacity as the Associate Director of Learning Resources. And in this role, he led the development of innovative academic learning spaces, including the college's first fully integrated writing studio in the Clearwater Library. Matthew is a graduate of St. Petersburg College, and he holds a bachelor and master's degree from the University of South Florida. He is completing his doctoral degree in writing and technology studies and performing research in academic support programs at Old Dominion University. Please help me in welcoming Matthew.
Good morning. I just wanted to say thank you, and I look forward to this opportunity. Thank you to the board for your support of out-of-class support over all these years. We look forward to continuing to work towards student success. Thank you.
Thank you. And new Director of the Honors Program.
Good morning, Board, Chair, Mr. President. I'm Associate Vice President Catherine Kennedy, and it's my pleasure this morning to introduce the new Program Director for the Honors Program, Mr. Earl Freitas. Earl actually had been a student with St. Petersburg College, but in 2004, he became a full-time instructor. But as those of you that know Earl, he doesn't stop with just what his job description says. He jumped in and also served students as an advisor, as well as lots of committee service. This past year, he served as the interim director for the honors program, at which time he delved into the data to create a strategic marketing plan for the honors program, a whole comprehensive honors plan that also included a strategic schedule as well. This is a program where students will take at least 2 courses a semester with their peers. They are supported with scholarships. They will also be guided to document their required research, leadership, service, and global initiatives into an e-portfolio. And that'll culminate in either an honors diploma or an honors certificate. I believe Earl will probably tell you that he is most pleased with the sense of community that has been brought back to the honors program this year. Mr. Earl Freitas.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank the board. Thank you, Dr. Law, for this opportunity. And I especially want to thank Catherine for her guidance, her encouragement, and her support over the last year. As you know, I was the interim director of the honors program for the last year. And when I started, we had approximately 114 students in the program. We've grown to at least 180 now. As of yesterday, our enrollment is up 30%. We're trying to be very strategic about that. We'd like to continue that responsibly. We have students in the honors program who are presenting their research locally, nationally, on the state and regional level as well, and we want to continue to offer those opportunities to our students. And we're strategically looking at other areas of the college. We're looking to incorporate some night courses, and we're also working with downtown. We've had some information sessions, and we've already signed up a few students, and we plan to sign up more and get more involved in that area as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Earl. Mr. Gibbons, good morning.
Morning.
Next on the agenda is our annual organizational meeting. We'll nominate and elect a chair and a vice chair. Also go through and select the day and the times of our regular meetings, and also designate the locations for the next year. I'm going to read through the script as required so that we can follow all the rules here. Section 1001.61 of the Florida statutes requires that each year at its first regular meeting after July the 1st, the College Board of Trustees shall organize by electing a chair whose duty it shall be to preside over all meetings, to call special meetings of the board, and to attest to actions of the board, and the board shall also elect a vice chair to act as chair during the absence or disability of the chair. Pursuant to this requirement, I now open the floor for nominations for the chair of the Board of Trustees for the 2016-2017 fiscal year.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Gibbons.
I'd like to nominate Dale Oliver as chair of the Board of St. Petersburg College for the year of 2016-2017.
Second.
Any other nominations? If there are no further nominations, I'll declare the nominations closed, and I'll call for a vote on the nominations.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
I'll accept. As a result of the vote, I'll serve another term for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. The gavel doesn't need to change hands, I guess, so we'll just kind of keep things rolling here. I now open the floor for nominations for the Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees for the 2016-2017 fiscal year.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Laura Lee Westhine as Vice Chair for one more year of 2016-2017.
Is there a second?
Second.
If there are no further nominations, I declare the nominations closed, and I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
As a result of the vote, Ms. Westhine is declared or to continue in her role as Vice Chair for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. Rule 6H X23-1.04 of the Board of Trustees Rules and Procedures requires the Board of Trustees to establish a schedule at its annual organizational meeting for its regular meeting for the college's fiscal year, including day, time, and location. I propose the following schedule for the fiscal year 2016-17, and it is in the board packet.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Unless otherwise scheduled, regular meetings of the board to take action on general business of the college shall occur on the third Tuesday of each month, starting at 9 a.m. at St. Petersburg College Epicenter, 13805 58th Street North, Largo, in room 1-453. Meetings of the trustees as the governing board of directors of the St. Petersburg Collegiate High School shall be scheduled in accordance with the requirements of the Florida Statute, Section 1002.33. Properly noticed special meetings and workshops may be scheduled annually at this organizational meeting or scheduled throughout the year. In the board packet, the meeting locations for the year are in there, also the days.
Where is that? I didn't see it, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to find it here.
It's after, it's in the board packet. I don't know.
2C3.
There it is, coming up right there, Mr.
Okay.
Gibbs. So the meetings will continue to be the third Tuesday of each month, with no meeting in July.
Go down one more time. Let me look at it again. Allstate Health Center. Seminole. Okay. You can't do them all.
Yeah, I think we have 4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
I move we accept the places and time as shown here on our in our agenda packet for board meetings, and the time should be designated still at 9 a.m. Right?
Have a second?
I don't think we did the time. We did the regular board meeting date.
Absolutely. Starting at 9?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor? Any opposed?
I like 8, but I never
Motion
make it on
passes.
time.
Close to 9.
Oh, yeah.
If possible.
Are we supposed to vote on that?
To the,
We voted?
I think we voted.
Oh, aye.
Comments from the board chair. I look forward to serving for another year. I've enjoyed doing this for the last year, and certainly look forward to the coming year, and hopefully we have as many opportunities to do things for our students and faculty and staff as we've done over the last year, and really make it a successful year as we've had. Any comments from any of the board members? Anything? Mr. President.
I have just a couple of things. One, I want to hand out a piece of work that was done by one of our student assistants who, in between answering telephone calls, with some guidance, pulled together a kind of a good-looking handout that people can use if they're good. That student assistant is off today to the University of Florida. It is she is the daughter, Sydney Coraggio, the daughter of Dr. Jesse Coraggio, so you won't be too surprised, but I thought it was a pretty good-looking document for a student of that age. So anyway, you have that, and we have wished her well. Mr. Chairman, I have an agenda matter that I'd like to bring up. Trustee Westing is in Daytona Beach today on something that could not be rescheduled. You know, she works for the court system. She called me late yesterday and indicated some. She asked if it was possible for us to postpone the St. Pete Gibbs contract matter until next month. And we talked about it a great deal. I indicated to her our sense of urgency. She indicated that she had some questions. We forwarded all the information to her yesterday afternoon. I indicated I would bring it up, and the board should have its own decision as to what the board cares to do. So, you know, we had a brief discussion about this, and I know she's expressed, not sure, I want to respect her request and everything, but the one question I want to ask of Mr. Gibbons, since he really was responsible for the process along with the folks in facilities and Mr. Wechter on the qualification of the bidders and the process, in his confidence that we followed the process, that all the bidders were qualified, and, you know, his confidence in kind of the process that we went through, because I want to respect Ms. Westing's wishes, but I also do not want to delay this because of other
issues related to possible funding and the fact that we need, you know, we're going to lose some time on this if we delay another month. So, Mr. Gibbons.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Let me just say this. I think Dr. Law will tell you, and Jim Wechter, going in this process, I was blind. I had sat in your seat before. I had never sat in the seat of going through the process as a member of that particular committee and then sitting with Dr. Law one-on-one. I will tell you, I was more nervous than the contractors. It was an excellent process, though, and it really does work. If I knew what her concerns were, Ms. Westheim, we could address them right now, because I can tell you that I was so impressed with the process that I see why Dr. Law, you know, like I said, I've sat in your seat as a chairman and watched the process from afar. But now I see why you and Dr. Law are saying other people want to mirror that process at their particular colleges or institutions or companies, because I thought it was fair and equitable. Now, let me say this. When it got down to Dr. Law and I, let me just share with you the last 3 groups, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was 3 groups. Mr. Chair, Dr. Law and I both agreed that any one of these companies could have built this particular project, and they were all equally qualified. But when it came down to the
beneficial community impact.
Yeah, the beneficial community impact, none of them really talked about it except for Lima in the way that we as a college want to impact our community. They got the full 30 points. They understood that that was very important. I think if I had it even, I think I had creative Dr. Law ahead of everybody else until it got to that, because they never really talked about the beneficial community impact piece. And whereas Lima came in, they got the full 30 points, I think, on my sheet and Dr. Law's sheet, because that they dealt with that issue. Now, all other things being equal, when I went through the packet of the last 3, they were all pretty equal. In fact, I gave Lima less points because they never said that they had built a college student life center, so to speak. I gave them 1 less point than I gave the other 2 companies in that area, because I felt like they never really spoke to that. But when you got to the end of it and they talked about people still having jobs from Midtown and how many people they did, I think over 42% when they promised less than that on in minority hiring and minority impact and contractors and so on. And then, you know, Watson Haynes from the Urban League came in and said there are people still working with companies based upon them getting a job with that particular project. I mean, there's when you weigh that impact compared to what the other groups did, that's really where they won it. I mean, I don't know what the complaint is. I don't know what the issue is, but I can tell you everything else was even. And the process was, to answer your question more directly, I thought the process worked phenomenally. I have to commend Jim Wechter and his staff and Dr. Law with regard to that, because like I said, I've never been through it, so, until now.
Jim, could you come up real quick, please?
Well, before you do that, Dr. Law, wouldn't you say that was a good assessment of what we saw at the end? I mean, you weren't there for the first part of it.
Absolutely.
But at the end, that's what we saw.
Yeah. So, as we initially qualified the vendors, kind of prior to step 1, just the RFP goes out and everybody responds and submits all of their information from who they are, what they are, their financial status, their bonding capability, and all of those kind of things. To make it through to the last round, everyone would have had to have met a certain minimal qualification to get to that point, correct?
Yes, sir. If I could explain,
That's fine.
Especially for our 2 new board members, how the process works. It's a 2-step process. We have what we call the screening committee, and then we have what's called the selection team. And the intent is for the screening committee to eliminate the least qualified firms. There is no ranking that occurs during the screening process. Each of the 5 board members nominated a member of that screening committee, as well as Mr. Gibbons served as the chairperson of that committee, and Provost Connor. So there were 7 members on that committee. Their job was exclusively to review the submittals. There were 11 submittals. We convened and we started the balloting process that Mr. Gibbons referred to that eliminated the least qualified firms. At the end of that process, our goal was to end up with between 3 and 5. Because we were at 6, we had a 3-way tie that eliminated 3, brought us to 3 remaining, and those 3 were the ones that then moved on to the selection team. So those 3 firms had another 10 days or so to prepare their presentations, come in and interview between the 2-member selection team, Dr. Law and Mr. Gibbons. That's when the vote, the ranking, the scoring, and all of that is designated in the RFP occurred, and they came up 1, 2, and 3. We've used this process. We developed this process through some great counsel from our own counsel as well as some outside counsel as a result of the Midtown go-around 4 years ago now, was it? We've employed it for 6 or 7 different projects entirely, the Bay Pines project, the Clearwater Library project, various other smaller projects, and as far as I can say, Mr. Chairman, it's bulletproof. It has a lot of integrity. A lot of people have asked us to use it for their applications, and I feel very, very good about the integrity of the process. I do.
Okay. All right. Any questions to Mr. Wechter or to Mr. Gibbons as far as the process?
I would just like to ask, what's the issue?
I didn't explore. Here's what Trustee Westing told me, that the person who represented her on the screening committee expressed some concern that Lima had the resources to do the project, and I indicated they have to get a bond. When I brought it up with Jim, he indicated during the entire process nobody expressed any concern about, nobody voted against Lima at any one of the stages in the process.
Including him.
I believe you're right, Mr. Gibbons. I have not reviewed the video, but
I sat on that part of it, Dr. Law.
I don't know the gentleman.
If I remember correctly, if that was a concern of his, why didn't he vote against Lima in the first round? Because I don't think Lima had a no vote through the whole first round of that thing. Remember, because I was kind of concerned. I was actually, I shared this with Mr. Wechter. I was kind of nervous because he was saying, I need a car for Mr. Gibbons. I need a car for, I was like, these people are going to shoot me on the way out the door. They know who I voted for. So, but I think in that first round, if he had that concern, he had the opportunity to, any one of us had the opportunity to vote against Lima, right? And they met the minimum standards. So I have the highest respect for Ms. Westheim, but let me just say this. The process worked. We went through it fairly and cleanly. And let me just say this to the rest of the board. I didn't say a word during the first round of this because I was, like I said, I didn't know how the process worked. Jim Wechter actually ran the process, and I thought he did it very fairly. You put your card out on a table, who you're voting for, and you don't have to give any reason why. So if someone had any issue with Lima or any other company at that point, you had the opportunity to vote against them. Now, they made it to the final 3. Well, I could say that Biltmore was in the final 3. I had a concern with something about them, but I had the opportunity to vote on it, and I also had the opportunity again with Dr. Law to score it.
Sure.
And so the process is the process. Now, either we're going to trust the process, which I'm telling you it was very fair because I could not have influenced or anybody else because Jim Rector ran it with a tight ship. There's a video of the process. There's a taping of the process. From the beginning to the end, all the way, Dr. Law and I were taped, even in our discussions about how we came to the final decision. And I think what Dr. Law said is the same thing I said. BCI is where they won it, or BCI is where Lima won the process. To me, they got a full 30 points because they discussed BCI the way that I think that this college and anybody else would want to have a community impact. So, like I said, I have the highest regard for Ms. Westheim, and I would hold this up if I thought that there was a real concern. But one, they met the minimum guidelines. None of us have anything to do with who meets the minimum guidelines. Jim and his staff and everybody else, along with our legal counsel, evaluate minimum standards, and that group met the minimum standards. So if they met the minimum standards in terms of financials and other things, they had the right to go through the process, and they went through the process and won it fairly. That, I mean, Mr. Chair, that would be my assessment of this.
Okay.
I would not like to hold this up because there are some legislative issues that we're going to have to deal with, and one of which I would not want to deal with one of the people in this legislative process if we told him that we were going to do something and we did not do it.
Okay.
And we've made that commitment. I think Dr. Law can answer to that as well.
Okay.
And this is an appropriations issue for us.
Sure.
And, you know, we put our legislative package together at this meeting to make sure that we can move the agenda forward. And this is our #1 priority.
Okay. Mr. Foster.
Yeah, thank you. What are you asking us to do at this moment? Just keep it on the agenda, or can we approve it? I mean,
You can, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So it is on the agenda
Yes, sir, it
later.
is. Yes, sir, it is.
So we can
Do we
move it
want to
around.
do we want to?
Let's move it up.
Well, okay, and let me finish.
Okay.
Out of great deference for our vice chair, I'm glad we're having the discussion. I think it's a very valid discussion to have. But that being said, this isn't about Lima, Creative, or Biltmore. It's about a process that we instituted. I wasn't on the board when the Midtown campus was built, but I was anxious to see it built, and my monthly calls to Dr. Law, when are we going to break ground? And so this process was instituted. I think it works. Whatever reservations anyone can have, our protection is in the contract. It's in the negotiations. If they can't meet a requirement under the contract, if they can't meet a bond requirement, should negotiations not result in a satisfactory contract deemed to be fair, competitive, and reasonable, then we go to the process leads us to #2. Mm-hmm. So whatever protections we need, whatever deficiencies could possibly arise, it's going to show up in the contract negotiations. So I'm going to move that we approve the selection team's recommendation and proceed with negotiations with Lima Construction.
As an old man in my neighborhood said, I would second that emotion.
I'll take a vote. All in favor?
I think Mr. Stonecipher has something though
I
for
was
discussion.
I'm sorry.
I was going to second Mayor Foster's
Emotion.
We'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
But I would ask that, Dr. Law,
I'll
let her know that
communicate
we discussed this and we had great concern with it, but I think the timing of this
Yeah.
makes us a little nervous about whether we can move it forward properly, Mr. Chair.
I agree, and I just wanted to make sure that we had the respect for her opinion and concern, but I think, we've already kind of vetted it out thoroughly here, and I think the process is valid, and I've been through it one time myself, and I just don't see how something can slip through. And as Mr. Foster said, we've still got to negotiate the contract, and things can happen then, but if they do, we just kind of follow the process.
I don't want to belabor this, but I agree totally with Mayor Foster said. But this is, the issue that is at hand was dealt with in the very beginning by staff. Either staff missed it or they got it right, and I don't believe they missed it. They had to evaluate each package to bring them even into the process.
Okay.
So.
Perfect. All right. Anything else, Dr. Law?
No, I'll have some comments at the very end.
Okay. I don't have any public comment cards. Item number 4, review and approval of the minutes. Minutes are in your board package. I will take a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Monthly reports. Our board attorney, Mr. Lang, is absent today. Ms. Gardner, anything from you?
Good morning. No, I don't have any report.
Very good, thank you.
That's good.
Item 6, strategic focus and planning. First, Dr. Correggio on the fall 2016 enrollment update.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Law. This morning, Dr. Correggio and I are going to give a brief presentation on our fall 2016 enrollment. As you know, the term got underway yesterday. And it's customary to bring a report to you, let you know how we stand in terms of how many students we have and how many courses we have and the fill ratio of those courses. As you see here on the left, the overall head count, opening day yesterday, we had 30,812 students enrolled. We were down 2.5% from last year. We had 31,617. That's a deficiency of 805 students. And SSH, student semester hours, we were down 3.6%. I want to pause there and just say that as I poll around the state and the other community colleges, state colleges in Florida, most are in the same position. As a matter of fact, I just got an email a few minutes ago from Tallahassee. They're down 4.5%. And that ranges anywhere from being flat to being down 6%. Broward is down 6% as of yesterday. That said, we recognize that there are things that we can do to improve. And as we walk through these slides, we're going to show you the highs and the lows. There are some good spots, but overall, we're down in most categories. This slide looks at student semester hours, lower division versus upper division. As you can see on the left, our lower division courses, we are down 4.4%. In our upper division courses, we're up 1.7%. That's actually some good news. When we last reported on our spring enrollment, we were down 3.3% in our baccalaureate coursework. And I think this increase represents some good work from the deans and admissions to streamline the process for our lower division students as they migrate to baccalaureate students. And then this slide looks at what we call enrollment type. Continuing students, that's a student who's been enrolled in the last 1 year. And you can see we're down 2.1%. This would look at areas around the issue of retention. New students were down 3.8%. That's new to SPC. That could be a transfer student. It could be an FDIC, never been to college before, and we're down 3.8% there. So this obviously impacts recruitment, and we have work to do there. And then our readmits are students who have been with us before, but more than a year ago. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Coraggio.
Good morning. I want to talk a little bit about the breakdown of headcount by degree objective, and you can see some variation when we talk about where we are in terms of enrollment. If you look at our Associates of Arts degree, and that's going to be primarily our transfer degree from us onto a university, we're down about 3.2%. If you look at our baccalaureate programs, for those intending for the baccalaureate, we're up about 4.1%. And then for our non-credential seeking, non-degree seeking, those are students typically coming here to take 1 or 2 classes for workforce, or potentially students that are in high school who are only taking 1 or 2 dual enrollment classes. We're up about 3.6%. Where it's most noticeably in terms of a decline is going to be for our Associates of Science students as well as those seeking certificates. So in our workforce area, we're down about 8% in that particular area. So as we talk about some of the economic changes, as you heard Dr. Nard mention, where a number of state colleges across the state are down or flat, and some of the impact of that is an external force. So some of the board members may have seen this chart before. This is a chart that the state actually produces, and it's a reverse cyclical relationship that exists between economic factors and enrollment in the state colleges. And you can see it's a pretty mirror trend that we see there, especially when you look at this last year and the change that's occurring. So typically when we have a downturn in our economy, our enrollment goes up, and it happened here at St. Petersburg College. At one point we were growing double digits every single semester. I remember at one point we were trying to teach classes in closets. We were running out of space. But times have changed, the economy's changed, and now we're seeing that improving in the economy, and it's been slow. It hasn't been a dramatic increase, but slow increase in economic factors in terms of employment rate, and we're seeing across the state sign of that decline. Now that That to say, that's something that we have to look at, and that's an impact when we look at enrollment, but that doesn't mean there's nothing we can do about it. And I think when we're looking at this, when we're faced this situation over the last few semesters where we're seeing this slowly 1%, 2%, 3% decline in terms of our enrollment, we rely on that enrollment, that tuition from students, to fund our student success initiatives that we have here at the college. So we need to reverse that trend. And as we've talked, we need to think outside the box. We need to do some things differently. And we need to really focus on what we can do to kind of change the tide. But keep this in mind, because we're going to look at some demographic factors, and they're related to the trend. When we think about economy, think about which students that would impact most. I'm going to start with some of the ethnic numbers. We look at race and ethnicity. We see some increases. We see an increase in our Hispanic students. They're up 4.5%, and this is across the college. Our Asian students is a much smaller population, but they're up 6.7%. Where we're going to see our declines are in our white students and our black African American students. So white students were down about 4.4%. Our black African American students were down about 4.2% across the college. One interesting thing to note, the actual size of the populations for our two major minority groups, our Hispanic students and our African American students, is about equal. And that's the first time that's happened, I think, at least since I've been at the college, that we're seeing about the same size in terms of populations. Again, thinking back to what we saw there in that reverse cyclical chart, notice on age, we're actually showing growth for our younger students. 18 and under is up 4.8%. We're pretty flat when it comes to 19 to 21. Where we're seeing most of our decline is in our older student population. So we're down about 8.3% when we look at 22 to 25, 2% for 26 to 35, and then for our 36 and older students, we're down 5.4%. When we look at enrollment status, we're only down a little bit when we look at our part-time student enrollment. What we're dramatically impacted is our full-time student enrollment. And again, I believe that's related to some of the economic factors as students were either unemployed or underemployed and coming back here full-time to change their job outlook. But we're down about 6.3% for those full-time students. Gender's about equal in terms of the decline in enrollment, 2.4% in both areas. And then finally, let's look at some instructional method. Now, this is actually an instructional method of the student. I want to caution now, we're not looking at online versus face-to-face. We're actually looking at what students take. So we see first face-to-face only. Those are students who are only taking classes here on the campus. We're down 3.7%. And then online, those are truly online students, meaning they're not taking a single course here on campus. We're up slightly at 0.4%, so it's fairly flat. And we're down about 4% for those students that are taking some kind of mixture, taking an online and a blended class at the same time, or an online or a face-to-face class. Let me turn it back over to Dr. Renard to share some information on our baccalaureate programs.
So this slide looks at our student semester hours for our baccalaureate programs, and it's rank ordered in terms of percent growth. You see there computer and information technology with a 22.8% growth over last year. And then in parentheses, you see the total student semester hours that program contributes. So you have a sense of magnitude. Down to business, the fourth one there, you see that's our largest program, had a 7.7% increase year over year. Back up to the computer and information technology, a lot of those are certificates and industry certificates that is driving the growth in that program. And then all the way down to the bottom, you see the College of Education, down 14.6% over last year. And this is attributable to the state raising the cut scores for the general knowledge test. The general knowledge test has 4 parts. It is a prerequisite for entry into that program, and they've raised the stakes to get into that program. So not only us, but any school offering education, baccalaureate education, is suffering. I'm told from the dean that we're actually faring better than some of the state universities in this regard. Also, you should know that the Dean Hartman and her team have put together a practice tests for students that want to do better on the GK exam. So that's in place. This slide looks at our first time in college students. And you can see overall we're down 8.1% in first-time in college students. You see in our African American black population we're down 15.5%. This is not acceptable. This is an area where we need to do a better job of getting into the community and making our presence known in the community. That certainly doesn't sit well with us, and we're going to fix that. Hispanics were basically flat. Caucasian white students were down 7.8%. This slide is from Mike Bennett, indicates our financial aid award for the fall term. Mike did report throughout the summer that we were seeing a decline in financial aid applications coming to the college to the tune of about 5%, which could be a leading indicator that fewer students are planning to come to the college. But you see there, his department has awarded $123.6 million to 17,301 students. I believe that's about 64% of our currently enrolled students. You see the average award there is $7,000, the largest being the Pell Grant at $51 million college-wide, followed by student loans down at $61.5 million. So in recap, our overall enrollment is down in headcount by 2.5% and 3.6% in student semester hours. Our baccalaureate enrollment, however, is up 4.5% in headcount. New student enrollment is down 3.8%. That's where we have some work to do in the community to recruit more students to St. Petersburg College. Our AS and certificate enrollment is down significantly at 8%. Hispanic enrollment up 4.5%. We're seeing a decline in our older student population, again, possibly due to improved employment rates. And the full-time enrollment is down 6.3%, and FDIC enrollment down 8%.
And I just wanted to put a quick note. If you look at the difference between where we are in headcount and SSH for both overall and baccalaureate, what that tends to suggest is students are taking a lower load, a lighter load than they have previously. And again, I think that might be related to what opportunities they have outside. The other interesting thing to note is for the Hispanic students, when we look at first time in college Hispanic students, we're flat. Yet college-wide we're seeing growth, which suggests we're having more Hispanic students come to the college that aren't the traditional first time in college. They're coming to us in other avenues as transfers and various mechanisms.
Questions?
Do you all happen to know, I understand the correlation between the economy doing better and student enrollment going down. Do you happen to know what the comparison is this fall versus, let's say, 2006, 2005, something back
question.
Then?
In terms of our impact here at St. Petersburg College, or looking at the factors from the state perspective?
With St. Pete College, I saw the state numbers. I was just curious for St. Pete College in particular, where we stand today versus what it looked like maybe in 2005 or 6.
We can pull those numbers and do that comparison. Overall, we've noticed that it's closely followed that reverse relationship. We can get you the exact numbers for here in Pinellas County in terms of employment rate compared to where we're enrolled.
Sure.
We peaked in about 2010, 2011, and then it's been steadily going down since.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Gibbons.
Real quick, great presentation. My questions, though, are more along the lines of what have we changed anything in recruitment is why we're down, or are we doing anything different? And then the second question I have, the second part of that question is, Dr. Law, one of the main things that I hear from folks is that, and I don't think it's a problem. I just think we have to learn to adapt to the stuff that we're hearing. For example, Dr. Fronrath has the EMS and the policing programs in the South. This week, a parent asked me, my child wants to get their AA or AS or whatever it is, and then go to that program, but it's going to be closer for them to go to Pasco, Hernando, right? Could this be the downtrend in enrollment be because people are going other places, and because they're closer, and we have programming that's, because this is a big county. I mean, to get from St. Pete to Tarpon Springs, ask Bill Foster. He'll tell you, he never goes. Unless he absolutely has to. I'm just kidding. But the same impediments that we have with cars and with good transportation, I would see students having some of those same impediments. Could this be as a result of programming? We probably need to figure out how we readjust some of the programming to make sure that we don't lose some students. Because I know that this parent was saying, well, go to St. Pete College and get your basic stuff done. And then when you transfer, we'll look at Pasco Hernando because it's closer.
Mr. Gibbons, I think that's one of the issues. If I could wave a magic wand, we'd have plenty of stuff in Tarpon Springs. You and I have talked about that. So no, and I understand that. I'm not at all sanguine about this continuous drip loss of enrollment. I mean, we've got to put everything on the table and say, are things the way we want them? If not, let's change them, and just kind of hold the ground to move things or to change them. But I don't have a plan for that yet. As soon as we get to Labor Day, that's our number one thing. We'll do that morning, noon, and night, because we have to make the change. Here's the answer. As long as we're going down, just so we're clear, that's a $600,000 hit to our operating budget. Okay, we're done. That's $600,000 that's not going to show up in the budget. So adding new programs in a declining revenue, you see the problem. I don't have the money to expand and give it a chance to grow and that sort of stuff. But we've got 400 faculty. We'll move them wherever we need them. I mean,
I'm not sure that's believe me, I'm not trying to get the answer to the answer for you. I'm just saying, I know that I hear that, and I know that we have programs that we probably can sunset in some regard to get rid of, because this legislature won't let you add new programs until you get rid of some other ones. And I'm sure that the workforce and the trends have changed since we've had some programs in place. But those ones that are blossoming, I really feel like we need to figure out how to get them on just about every campus. I mean, education, for example, I would venture to say if we did a study, and I may be wrong, but I've just ventured to say this, that we probably get a lot of people that are working as secretaries and all kinds of other jobs in downtown St. Pete that have to drive to, I think our education programs on Seminole and Tarpon, right? That have to drive that far to get in our education program. And some of them just say, forget it, I'll just go to Tampa, right? So if that is the hub of where people are working and going to college, they're coming from downtown St. Pete to Gibbs or to downtown or to Midtown or even to the Skyway South Campus, whatever we're going to call it. I think we probably need to look at the synergy of the universe and see how it's changed since. And that's not. And believe me, I'm not being critical. I'm saying that. I'm just saying that it probably has changed even since I started on this board, because I've seen a lot of changes in terms of what our students look like. And I think Mr. Stonecipher's question was a perfect one. At the height of the market, where were we? Like, what did enrollment look like? Right. You know, when it was really, really good. And we're starting to see an increase. Are we near the same numbers, or is it a lot different? So that I guess that's where
I think you're onto. I think you're onto a significant part of the problem. The other is it's not single faceted. We have expanded online to address some of those same issues. If you don't have to drive anywhere except go home, okay, then so if you look at, we've expanded online. 40% of the students, 40% of the coursework now is online. 40%. Those classes are 96, 97, 98% full. They did just fine, okay? The face-to-face classes are 84, 85, 86% full. We're seeing an erosion of evening courses. The people who are working downtown, if they can go home, sign on or stay at work for an extra hour and work. So we're trying to figure out how to get in front of this. But, you know, if you squeeze it here, it comes out somewhere else. We don't have an answer yet, but we will bring back our strategies and submit them to the board for your good guidance on these things, okay? I just can't believe that we're going to go down by 2% until we hit some bottom that's out there. That drives me crazy. You know, we can do 2% better than we're doing. So we'll figure it out. I appreciate the board's indulgence on this.
Any other questions? Very good, thanks. All right, Budget and Finance, Ms. Hunt and Mr. Miles.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board Trustees, and Dr. Law. This morning I'm going to give you a report on our year-end for our 15-16 budget. Next month in September, I will bring to you the current fiscal year 16-17, so we'll start to dive into the current fiscal year. So first, taking a look at our revenue, I just want to highlight a couple points here. Our student tuition ended at $55.6 million at 98%. And then our state appropriations, which is our community college program funding and our lottery, came in at 100%, which we expected, and our performance funding. I just wanted to highlight those areas now because that's about 70% of our, a little over 80% of our budget. Overall, our revenue is at 99%. Looking at our expense, I want to spend a little time focusing on a couple of the line items here. If we look at the adjunct supplemental, where our budget is $14 million and it came in at 15, we were over by 7%, but I just want to recap what happened in 15-16. In September of 2015, we looked at our budget and our student semester hours and what our enrollment was, and we made some adjustments to our tuition revenue, and also in turn, it affected our adjustment to our adjunct cost. So we lowered the adjunct cost, being that it was in September, we were already had summer had already taken place, and we were already in the middle of fall. So it affected, the adjustment affected our spring 2016. Here, even though you see the 7% over, if we compare it to the prior fiscal year, it's a $600,000 lower amount. So we see that adjustment in spring. Then I also wanted to point out with our health insurance, where we budgeted $11.5 million, and then the actual is almost $14 million. We have a presentation coming after this by our Director of Human Resources that will dig into some more detail of our health program. And then right now, if you look at the current expense, overall we're at 97%. But I just wanted to make a note and let you all aware of something. Within that, we have our waivers, where we budgeted $1.5 million. Came in at about $3 million. So as a budget department in a college, we're looking at some closer analysis, and we'll be bringing you some more information on that. Then our capital budget, we came in at a little bit under 70%, and overall at 99%. So this slide is our budgeted, actually a slide that depicts our budgeted revenue versus our expense activity trend. So if you look at the green line, this shows our 15-16 and where we ended at a zero budget balance. And because this is our year end, I wanted to give you a summary of our unencumbered fund balance. So the fund that I just discussed, our operating fund, we ended at a little bit shy of $15 million in our unencumbered fund balance. Our restricted fund, our Fund 2, overall $6.4 million. That fund includes our student activities at $2.8, and then our grants and contracts at $3.6 million. Our auxiliary fund at $6 million, and then our Fund 7, which is our capital outlay fund, a little shy of $16 million.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, can I just expand ever so briefly on the waivers issue? Okay, our legislative friends in the course of time have been opened the door to a number of expansions of the waiver program. So somebody who comes to us, I'm trying to think, veterans have waivers. The homeless we waive tuition for homeless. And both of those, we have to make an estimate early in the year. Both of those, we underestimated what that impact would be. I think I'm not very happy about coming up $1.5 million short on those two categories. I think we have to dig in a little deeper and say, okay, what's the process for identifying, what's our estimate of this, how do we monitor this a little more closely? That one seems to me to need additional review. I was surprised when that one popped up, because we hadn't talked about it all year. So let's do that. Other than that, you know, the numbers come out at zero. I mean, that's the way you land it. Yeah.
Quick question, Mr. Chair. Do we have set targeted amounts for the unencumbered fund balances, or
well, we like, in an ideal, we would like to have an increase each year, which would represent a surplus in our budget over revenue. But our target is to normally have a balanced budget to at least zero out at the end of the year. When we submit to the state appropriation, we have to submit to them a balanced budget of zero. So we target for zero and hope for a surplus.
Okay.
Mr. Foster, the state, when they put it through their just the matrices, they're looking for colleges to have a 5%, somewhere between 5% and 10%. If you get above 10%, you'll raise, you know, some eyebrows. If you get below 5%, they start getting nervous that you don't need it. So we could do the percentage here. I don't know, but
9 to 10%.
Okay. We're right at 9 or 10%, so we're in pretty good shape on that.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving into administrative matters, in your book under 6C1A is the Human Resources Personnel Report. We need to take action and a motion on those opportunities.
I move we accept, I'm sorry, what are the items again, Mr. Chair?
The Human Resources Personnel
I move
Report.
that we accept the whole human resources package under administrative action, administrative matters.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Health insurance update, Ms. Warner.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Law. I'm Desiree Warner, and I'm going to be briefing you this morning on our health insurance. What I'd like to start with is trends of our claim spend over our calendar years. I'm going to talk to you about what's affecting those trends and then some considerations that we'd like to propose today and then bring back for consideration to the board in September. As you've heard today, we do have a decrease in revenues, and so I want to start by also saying that our fund has been healthy over the past year, and we've actually been able to cover some of our shortfalls. And so if we look at our trends right now, you can see that we were short. Well, actually, we've had a flat over 2012 and 13, and 14, 15, we've had a slight increase. Going forward in 2016, though, we have a projected increase in our claim spend of 8.2%. As well as in 2017, we're expecting another increase of 2.7%. So we're going to go into what that includes. We've historically had our top conditions of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and depression. We focused a lot of our wellness and efforts on mitigating those particular diagnoses, but they still seem to be trending up as our top three. This year, we've had an increase in our high dollar claims, and actually we've had about 20 of our claimants have been in our high dollar claims, and that's over $50,000, upwards to the about $320,000 for some of our members. And as you'll note, that is 1.6 of our population and almost 40% of our total claims paid this year, which is very significant. We've also had a change in our retiree spend, particularly our inpatient spend. Last year we were predicting that we would have an increase in our prescriptions for our retiree population, but instead we're seeing that we had an increase in our inpatient hospitalization, and that equates to 256% of an increase over last year. And the top conditions that we're seeing there are our spinal or osteoarthritis and unfortunately some cancers there. We do have our demographics is pretty steady. We have 55% female, 45% male, and the average age is usually teeters around 40. We did have prescriptions, about 81% is generic usage, and so that's really good for us. Our high deductible plan shift with our new employees has an uptick of 52%, and that's actually that we have 326 members now compared to 214 members last year. And so we do expect about a 10% movement out of our point of service and HMO plans to that high deductible plan. We are also looking at what the effects of those trends are doing. And so if we look at our calendar year 15 to 16, we are actually seeing that 8.2%. And what that equals with the revenues that we receive from what we contribute as the employer and what the employees contribute to the amount of claim spend is that we're going to be about $1 million short at the end of calendar year 2016. And then following that projection at the end of calendar year 2017, we will have an additional $1.5 million shortfall. Our fund balance right now is $6.5 million. In the past, we've started out where we had pretty much about a high of $12 million, and we've, as I said, been able to cover the shortfall. But now we're looking more conservative of how we're going to offset those costs. So we need about 17% to stabilize our self-insurance fund. So that equates to about $3 million. What we're looking at right now is that we will be able to cover the $1 million shortfall for 2016. But in looking forward to 2017, we feel like the comfort level would be around $500,000. So we need to make some changes, propose some changes that would cover our values, but also mitigate that $1 million shortfall that we would have remaining. One thing to note is that we do have requests for bids that will be going out in January for our new plan for 2018, but we are currently locked into the insurance plans that we have in place for the year of 2017. What we can do is redesign that plan for the offerings to our employees. In speaking with our insurance committee and our broker, we've come up with some ideas that might help us reach that $1 million goal. Some of that might include a buy-up to our dental plan, a possible elimination or a reduction in some of the offerings that we have for dental. Dental is about $1 million a year that we actually pay for our employees, but we know that that also contributes to a healthy heart, and so those two tie together. We've talked about increasing deductibles, possibly increasing what the premiums are, to also looking at what we can do with our retirees and offering them more plans, and then redesigning our wellness budget. Our wellness budget right now is $200,000, and we try to focus again on those top diagnoses to keep those costs down, but we're actually looking at how we can be more innovative then with that $200,000 going forward to help us contain the cost. What we're hoping for is in calendar year 2018 that we can actually balance our fund and not have to draw any more on the reserve, and that we would have a reserve plan going forward to offset that reduction in revenue. So we do plan to bring recommendations to the board in September, and we'll look for your guidance at that time. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yeah, sure.
First of all, the insurance plan is something we're very proud of. It has served us exceptionally well. The plan is solid. People get served. The administration of it is orderly. Everything has worked. Getting and we've been able to hold both premiums and out-of-pocket, the deductibles, for 3 years. We have not had an increase in 3 years. So we've managed it quite well, I think. All of a sudden you wake up and you have a great increase in catastrophic. The retirees, we have to dig in on that one again. I'm not sure it's aligned with Medicare just to make sure everybody's paying their fair share.
So that was a question I had, is how we were aligned with that.
I'm going to need somebody else to describe that. I'm not sure I get it.
We currently have the spend for our Medicare population, or retiree population. If we were to offer them the actual equivalent premium, it would be around $1,600 a month. They're currently paying $390.
There's only 73 or 79 people.
73, yes, sir.
73 in the retiree fund, but you know, these are long-term employees. I mean, there's a certain element of fairness that we want to observe, but you know, it's getting to where you have to say, okay, is everybody accessing all of the available resources, and how it goes. We'll bring you a plan. We're not ready yet, but I worry a lot about the people at the lowest ends of our salary structure. I suspect figuring out how we're going to cover a $3,000 or $4,000 total out of pocket for the year is very different around the table at some levels than it would be at other levels. And I want to make sure everybody, I don't want anyone to forego health insurance because they're afraid they can't afford it, okay? Right. We have to figure out how to keep everybody on board. What I've asked them to do, though, is to plane it over so that we can give ourselves a 2 or 3 year run to get it under control. I don't think you can make the changes all in 1 year and fix it as fast as 8.5%. So we're trying to say if we make some changes, they kick in January, we can get this year's under control, we'll lower the trajectory, and we think we can be in a better place, and then the next year will be equilibrium and adjust it as it goes. So we put a lot of time and energy into this. We have a health committee on campus that we have to, we're committed to running all of these by to take their input. We'll bring a plan in September. It's
just go ahead.
No,
go ahead. I was just going to say, I think in the time that I've been on the board and to the newer board members, I think the college has done a great job in kind of managing the benefits and especially the medical care to the employees. And you know, this gets tougher and tougher. I mean, I run a small business, and health care is probably the greatest concern that we have for the 250 employees that we have every year. And I think as we look through this, we're going to have to get kind of creative as these costs tend to go up. Into how we can kind of spread the fairness across all of the income brackets and things like that. And then also this whole retiree thing, I think sometimes we don't force people to kind of explore all of the opportunities that they have coming to them in Medicare and those type things before they come back to our insurance plan. And we're probably going to need to kind of, you know, take a very hard look at what those opportunities are. But I think we're going to have to get creative to kind of get comfortable with this going forward, because I think it's going to get tougher and tougher every year with this. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, capital improvement plan, Mr. Wechter and Mr. Carver.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Law. With me this morning is Dr. Eric Carver, Provost of the Health Education Center. Just a brief background on our capital improvement plan. Every 5 years we produce what's called a 5-year survey, a facility survey that goes to the state. And then in between each of those 5 years we submit an annual update to that survey. Our last survey was done in 2012. Our next one is due next summer. So what you see today before you is the final 1-year update prior to submitting a complete comprehensive survey next year. Basically it looks like this, and the key point to look at is the far left-hand column. We have to submit all of our capital projects and we have to prioritize them. What is the highest priority item that we are seeking capital money for from Tallahassee? And as you can see down near the bottom, the number one priority is that second $10 million for the Student Success Center at St. Petersburg Gibbs. Up near the top, part and parcel to what we do every day is our maintenance operations, so we have to ask for our sustaining funds for things like roofs, parking lots, and things like that. That is our number 2 priority. Historically, it's either number 1 or number 2. But what we want to talk and focus on this morning is our number 3 priority. You know, right on the horizon is the Student Success Center, but right beyond that horizon is a discussion about how we plan to rejuvenate or rebuild or relocate or whatever the case may be our health education center down in Pinellas Park. And Dr. Carver is going to take us through a plan. It may not be the one we end up with, but it certainly will be sufficient enough to initiate the discussion, which is our intent today. Let me also focus on number 4 and 5 real quick, just because you won't see it again before the vote. Number 4 is the Health Education Center Annex Building, which is about 3 blocks south of the Health Education Center. It's a 50,000 square foot building that is only partially occupied at the time. It's in need of some significant renovations to make it functional. And number 5 is some learning support space at the downtown center on the upstairs floor to enhance the learning experience for our students. This is a PowerPoint that was produced as part of a master plan by an architect about 3 years ago when we looked at each of our campuses. This is their results, and we've tweaked it a little bit to bring us up to date. But Dr. Carver will talk to us about how we plan to rejuvenate that campus in phases. The key number on this is the bottom right-hand corner. 170,000 square feet is what we're looking to demolish through the course of this phased approach.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Law. You can see the first slide. This is the previous site plan prior to the demolition of our Vet Tech building. As you know, our Vet Tech campus is on, our facility is on Almerton, right beside Pinellas County Animal Services. So this right here was phase 1. This building was demolished and is now currently a parking lot. In the second phase, this is a conceptual model of a 58,000 square foot building, building A, conceptually. And then after this concept, you would see the demolition of our East Annex that we have in our thrift store. We have some portable units on site. We evolve into building B. And after the construct of building B, again, 58,000 square feet, you would see the demo of the HEC building as it stand. O&P would currently stand a concept for a C building, and then this is an overview that gives you the phases and the overview. And I don't think there's a next slide. Yes. So you would see the square footage, and keep in mind on here it shows slightly less square footage. But that's usable square footage, because keep in mind that with our South Annex, the building is 50,000 square feet, but there's only about 40,000 that's usable. It's got a 10,000 square feet that we lose of the atrium in the center. So this would be more better designed and more feasible, usable space. Functional square foot.
So this is the action item, members of the board, is to vote and approve of our capital improvement plan and the related documents that need to be submitted to the state by September 1st. Please.
Have a motion? Any questions first?
Questions, discussion.
I have a question.
Or discussion.
Please.
Can you just briefly get myself and maybe Mayor Foster up to speed on what are the most significant issues at the health center campus and the reasoning behind the development there?
Well, a history. The building was built in the early 70s. For those of us who are longtime Pinellas County residents, it was built as a department store on the corner of 66th Street and Park Boulevard. It was called Web City. It was their second large development. Their primary location was downtown St. Petersburg. It was what we know as a Walmart today. It was the predecessor of the Walmart. It's a huge, multifunctional, you could get anything at Web City. When you walked into the building, there was an escalator right there, which has now been replaced by a staircase. But anyway, it served as Web City's second location in Pinellas Park for about 12 or 13 years. And when they closed the Web City, there was a deal made for the college to acquire it. So it was a vast two-story building with no walls, essentially. It was just a big department store. So we went in there, and this was before my time, but in the early 80s when we acquired it, put up all the walls, all the offices, all the classrooms. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of infrastructure issues related to the building. For example, the second floor is a metal deck poured with 2 inches of lightweight concrete. 2 inches of lightweight concrete is not structurally significant for handling things like heavy machinery that we use in the milling process, like we have in the O&P building, for example. We could never move the O&P function into that building. There's a lot of nursing components with machinery and medical devices that we have to bring in structural engineers before we can put them in the building to say, you know, you got to put it over here near this column because you can't put it over here, things like that. Electrical is every bit as bad. The electrical infrastructure is very, very deficient. Our in-house construction group of 3 electricians have spent countless of hundreds of hours over the years just trying to keep things operating. Plumbing infrastructure, there are no windows in the building to speak of. I think there's 1 small window on each side of the east and north or south exposures. A lot of infrastructure issues is the bottom line. The roof, we have a ton of equipment on the roof, mechanical equipment. The roof leaks. We're looking at a $2 million price tag just to replace the roof alone. A lot of stuff, a lot of infrastructure items, and then we're limited on what we can do in it because of those structural issues primarily. Mr. Stonecipher.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, to add to that, Mr. Stonecipher, it was a great question, by the way. To add to that, in the early, I'm looking at Mr. Lang, I think it was 2000, right, or so, when Governor Bush came and said to Dr. Cutler at the time, you know, University of Florida wanted $2 million to do a study on how many nurses the state would need statewide, and then St. Pete College stepped up and said that, you know, give us $500,000, we'll start producing nurses in 2 or 3 years. And so we really didn't have time to get this. We didn't know how many nurses we were going to actually be producing. And now this is morphed into, I think, more than anybody thought it would be, where we're probably a leader in producing nurses statewide. I mean, I think we're one of the top schools in the state in terms of producing healthcare folks across the state. To add to that, my question is that it looks like we've gotten less space in this deal, and that's okay as long as it's functional. I want to make sure that we have provided ourselves some room for growth with the stuff that we're going to be looking at doing here.
I'll answer that. Mr. Gibbons, this is extremely, as you know, this is extremely preliminary. And this is just merely to get some numbers up in front of the state legislators to say, hey, St. Pete College needs a bunch of money for their health center. There are a lot of details that will need to be worked through, including, you know, the programming function. How much space do we need for nursing, the various departments and so on. So there's a lot of work that would need to occur. But we do know that there's a lot of non-functional space in the existing center, and we can probably do a much better job of making efficiencies work.
Well, the only reason I asked that question of you, Mr. Wechter and Dr. Law, is because you got this board one time. We don't know if all of us will be sitting here again. That's number one. And number two is you get one bite of the apple, and I'd rather look for more space than just enough when dealing with folks in Tallahassee, because you know they got a habit of shrinking us.
Mr. Gibbons, thanks for opening that door, because quite frankly, my direction was to move this up because Pinellas County is going to be well represented in the next couple of years. So if we get our St. Pete Gives piece done, we need to have something in the works for the next good discussion with people who are in a position perhaps to support our request. So that's why I'm moving this one up onto the board agenda today. We have plenty of other needs. Doesn't mean the other campuses don't have needs, but this one is, I think, our chance to swing hard and hope we can hit a home run.
Well, if there's no other discussion, Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of this item.
Second. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The second item under other on the administrative matters, I believe we've already taken action on. Correct. The selection of design build. Mm-hmm. We had vigorous discussion, and I believe we've already taken care of that. The last item under the agenda on that is synergistic energy conservation policy. And some action on that. Mr. Wechter, are you addressing that?
Yes, sir, I am. Basically what I'm asking for this morning, the college is asking for adoption of a resolution at the board level. At the June meeting, the board approved the selection of Synergistic to come in and initiate and implement and carry out entirely an energy conservation program. The key points of that program, number one, is there is zero capital investment required on parts of the college, and number two, Synergistic derives their revenue from the college through shared savings. Whatever, we do a baseline of all our energy costs, and then as we move forward through the implementation of these initiatives, the savings that are achieved will be shared 50-50 between the college and the provider. They ask for a top-down approach. They want the board to know and be aware of their engagement, and then we'll use that to help leverage the implementation of the process. So what you see before you is that resolution that the board is adopting as of today, if you so approve.
Any questions, Mr. Wechter, on this?
How can this be terminated if we decide in the future that that's the direction we want to go in?
Well, it's a 5-year commitment initially, but we do have an out clause should we decide we want to do that. The thing another noteworthy item is that the personnel that will implement this process, called an energy specialist, will be a synergistic employee. We will provide them office space and technology to use, but it's their program, it's their overhead, it's their labor that will be doing all the work. Now, we certainly have to provide a cooperative atmosphere and so on, but should we, for example, worst case scenario, no savings are achieved, okay? If that were to happen, we would mutually agree that it's not worth their investment of time and energy, nor ours. So it's a 5-year contract, but we do have some out clauses in that contract.
Understood. Any other questions?
It doesn't cost us any money.
It doesn't cost us any money. We merely pay for a software subscription to the energy monitoring software, and that's it.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Very good. Motion passes. Item D, academic matters, emergency medical service program and organizational change. Dr. Cooper.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Law. I'm here with Rebecca Ludwig, the Dean of our College of Health Sciences, and we'd like to take some time to share with you some of the organizational changes that are in process with our emergency medical services program. You may recall that a little less than a year ago, there were legislative changes that were looking at our Fire Science Academy, which is presented in what's called a clock hour learning environment or a post-secondary adult vocational learning environment, which is where it's a more hands-on type of learning environment as opposed to separate credit classes. At that time, they wanted to combine the Fire Science Academy with our Emergency Medical Technician program in a similar type of clock hour program so that students could complete both. But because to be hired with the fire chiefs, one needs to have both of those certifications. So we began the process of communicating with the fire chiefs and our team, as well as our Fire Science Academy and our Emergency Medical Services team. And as part of those discussions, we became aware that there were some concerns expressed by the fire chiefs in regards to our credit program. So I asked if I could attend their meeting in February to hear directly from them as to what their concerns were and how we might address those. At that meeting, I heard a number of things being expressed about the schedule that those in the fire departments work at, and how that didn't fit with how our credit classes are being scheduled, as well as some other concerns about the students coming out of a clock hour program with the Fire Science Academy and then being put in a credit approach to their learning. So we decided to put together a focus group to resolve the issues. We met in April, May, and July. This particular focus group was made up by myself, Dean Ludwig, Eric Carver, members of our fire program down at the Allstate campus, 3 of the fire chiefs, as well as representatives from Pinellas County's Emergency Medical Services Sunstar team. The results of those meetings were that our credit program was not meeting the needs of those in the fire area, and there were some challenges for those in the emergency medical services as well. So what we arrived at is that we wanted to offer a post-secondary adult vocational or clock hour program in the paramedic area as well. There were issues not only with scheduling, but the program on the credit side of the house was 16 months long, whereas PSAV programs were being offered by other entities that were only 12 months long. And this makes a difference to an individual, of course, who wants to progress in their career and get a job. One of the other nice things about the clock hour programs is they're not held to the academic calendar. We can start when we have enough students and allow them to progress through more quickly. We found also that offering the PSAV form for the paramedic program would also become financial aid eligible because there are enough hours associated with the program, and that students who decided to opt for the post-secondary adult vocational program in the paramedic, once they received their certificate, they could, if they wanted to continue their AS degree, articulate 38 credits towards that AS degree. So it still provided them with options. When we went back and looked at the data, going back to 2012, we saw that there was not only a decline in our student enrollment, and we were hearing from some of the fire chiefs that they were sending their employees outside of Pinellas County to achieve their paramedic certification. And if we look at the numbers in regards to our graduation rates in the AS degree, the emergency medical technician program, and the paramedic program, you can see that in 2015, this past year, the EMT rose, and we believe that that is due to the fact that we are now offering that not only on the credit side, but also in the PSAV format. So we believe the same will happen in our paramedic program by offering both options to the students. Dean Lowe would like to talk now about some next steps and what we are going to be providing our students with.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Law, we have already made great progress on the next steps to make this a more thriving program. Reorganization of the leadership, we took the current program director and switch or swap places with a faculty member. So that person is now an interim faculty member for 1 year. And the faculty member who stepped up to be the interim program director is Glenn Davis, and Mr. Davis does have experience on the fire side of the house, so we think that that will be a more compatible match with recognizing and addressing their needs. We also are interviewing for a new coordinator position that will be responsible for these PSAV and non-credit opportunities for our students, and that process should be winding up within the next week. So what we plan to do is in the spring, in January, we'll introduce a PSAV paramedic program. We will also keep our credit paramedic program, but we'll move it to evenings, which is actually a better fit for the medical facilities and hospital that hire these graduates. And they need the credit program for their tuition reimbursement. So now we'll have a plan that will better meet the needs of both of the major employers of our graduates. This lays out a pathway to show you how these students can progress. On the credit side of the house, they can do EMT and paramedic, and then move into the ASEMS with 42 credit hours. From there, completion of that allows them to also enroll in a BAS program of their choice. We have Health Services Administration and Public Safety Administration. On the PSAV side of the house, they can do EMT and paramedic. They have to apply, but they can articulate into the AS program with 38 credits. Once they complete that program, they are also eligible for either Health Services Administration or Public Service Administration. They also have the opportunity to jump around. They could do PSAV and either EMT or paramedic and still follow the pathway. Any questions?
I have a question of Dr. Law. real quick, Dr. Lau. Number one, let me say thank you to both of you. This has been a long time coming. It's been needed. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
because
that.
we have been losing folks to HCC in this particular program for a long time, as you well know. My question, though, is in 2017, Dr. Law, will we be ramped up enough if there is a big influx of students that want to move through this program? I asked that question because you and I have been in discussion about putting pathways back together for like nursing. Right? We have 1,800 people applying for so little spots, and we could produce, 1,800 nurses almost every year if we had the slots and the capacity to do that. The health industry is growing so fast. I would hate for us to be sitting in that same situation where we lose people because we don't have a big enough net to catch everybody. Will we be prepared for that influx? Is there a way? Are we ramping up over the years based upon the numbers that we see, or what's the strategy to try to fix that that particular issue going?
Thank you. Would you go back to the chart? Thank you for developing this. This was the last minute. That just no, I've got to go the other way.
Sorry.
And the blue and gold chart at that one. Essentially, what we've done is create that right column, and here's the best analogy. It looks like what we do with the law enforcement training. You come for 800 hours, you get high-level training, you get a job. If you want to come back for another degree, you apply, you get credits to apply toward a college credit degree. I mean, that one, we start those up as soon as we have a demand by the law enforcement agencies. We can do as many as they want in a year. We don't have fixed costs, so we can scale it down if we need it. That's the one we think is going to grow and meet most of the needs. The fact is, for a small number of students, but a significant number, they really want the credit program. They're hospital-based. They're not emergency responders in that sense. So I think we have artfully divided the problem that lets us respond as best we can. I will tell you, when they came to see me, and they were very, others can say what they want. The chiefs have a reputation of being hard to work with. I think they're just as direct as can be. They don't hurt my feelings at all when they come and say, Mr. President, here's what you need to know. They have hundreds of slots that they're getting ready to fill. This is going to blossom in the next couple of years. And the idea that students from Pinellas County would be going across any of the bridges or going up US 19 is not acceptable to me. We should be meeting their needs. So
this seems to make it easier at the front door too.
I think this has great potential. Let me compliment the vice president and the dean. They didn't waste any time stepping into the breach. I met one time as a courtesy with the fellow who heads up the Chiefs Association, but they have signed off on this. They think this will work. So it swirls around a lot. We wanted the board to hear it from us. Okay, you don't really have to do anything, but I don't want you to get caught in a discussion out in the field and say, we don't even know what you're talking about. So,
any other questions or comments? No.
No, I don't think we need a motion. We just want the board to feel comfortable.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, item 7, consent agenda. All the information's in our board book. I'll take this as a group if anybody.
So moved, Mr. Chair, that we accept the entire consent agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
All approve?
Aye.
Any disapprove? All right, motion passes. Item 8, information reports. None to discuss. No public access or unagended items that I'm aware of. No proposed changes to the Board of Trustees rule manual. Next, Dr. Law, President's report.
Yes, sir. I have one report. I want to share with the board and get a little bit of guidance from the board. I had previously sent you some information regarding an emergent organization effort on the part of the UFF to have our faculty join their union. It's very hard to track. It emerges and then it goes underground a little bit, and there's all sorts of moving parts. I think we are. I spoke to it Thursday at the Welcome Back. It has historically been the position of this board to not support unionization as a means for solving and identifying issues. Here's what I'd like to do, though, is if it's still emergent, and it will be a month from now, what I'd like to do, though, is bring in some labor attorneys and to do a short workshop with the board so that you know exactly what this means. What happens with a faculty union? What's the right of this board? You have a significant responsibility in the way the union decisions get made. What are the timing issues? How does that work? I think we would be well served by making sure everybody has all of the information and doing it in an open public way to do that. If that's your desire.
Are you asking for like a workshop, an open public workshop?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, Mr. Gibbons, to have somebody who knows, here's what happens, here's what the timings are, here's what typically takes place if the union is in fact voted in. Here's how you resolve issues. I mean, in the end, it all comes back to the board. You are the final arbiters. So,
yeah.
I think it would be healthy to have a public discussion on that if that's your disposal.
I think we should get prepared for that. If Mr. Chairman, if you think we need to go ahead and give, and it obviously has moved to the forefront for the president, and I'm a little nervous if he's talking about we need to do that. We probably need to do it sooner than later. To have some type of workshop on that. I can just tell you, I really want to hear why you would want to unionize. I'd like to hear from the faculty. I mean, and Dr. Law, that's, I hope you know that that's no disrespect to you. I just want to hear what it is. I mean, because if there are concerns, I mean, I think the board should know about the concerns, number one. But number two, it's going to be hard to pull me into a union kind of concept.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest with you. That from my perspective, I think we do a good job of trying to make sure that every employee is dealt with fairly. And I can tell you, since Dr. Law's got here, I get kind of tired of him talking about the people at the lowest end of our pay scale. But he really watches out for everybody in terms of pay and all these other things, and he has a methodical approach. So I really would like to know why would faculty want to be unionized.
Well, I think it's a good idea. I think I've kind of worked in both sides, and I think it's good for everybody to kind of know the information and know kind of what to expect. If things do move in that direction, and I'd like to know again too, as Mr. Gibbons, why it would move in that direction.
Yeah, where are we going that direction for?
Mr. Foster, do you have a comment?
Just kind of a ditto and on the same lines. I mean, I've 10 years with the city council and 4 years as mayor dealing with every public service union under the sun. And the unions serve a valuable purpose. I met with union leadership constantly just to make sure that needs were addressed and collective bargaining and the whole thing. But why is probably a question that I would like to hear. There's got to be an underlying current somewhere that I think potentially we can address. And so yeah, and publicly is good. I was going to ask legal if any of this, if attorney-client sessions applied to any of this, but A, I don't think it does, and B, I don't think it behooves us to have those discussions privately anyway. So yeah, I would support that, Dr. Law.
Okay.
Mr. Stone, sorry.
I support that as well.
Before Dr. Law, one last thing. Let me go on the record as saying this. I am not adamantly opposed to unions. I mean, I think the mayor, along with other folks, did the right thing when they did not bother the union employees at sanitation because of the history that you talk about in those particular situations. But in the day of tenure and all these other things, contracts that we deal with on a regular basis, and they get 3-year contracts, Dr. Law, or something like that.
The continuing contracts.
Continuing contracts and that kind of stuff. I mean, I really would like to hear why, because there are folks that are struggling to get a decent paying job, and from best I can tell, we do a pretty good job of making sure people have a livable wage, full 401k, medical and dental benefits, and there are people that are struggling to get those types of jobs, and I really would like to hear why we're moving down that track. So, Mr. Chair, if you,
sure,
however you and Dr. Law,
that.
if I need to make a motion, I make the motion that we move forward with the chair and the president setting up a available town hall or some type of meeting for us to have this, a workshop to have this discussion.
We have a second? All approve?
Aye.
All right.
One last thing, we had the welcome back for faculty, and I want to thank Mr. Stonecipher and Mayor Foster for being there. It was a really good event, as always. 400 people at the Coliseum, and three good sessions, 2 good sessions, and me. I always look forward to that day. Once again, let me compliment Vice President Cooper. She and her staff do a wonderful job. And if you had any observation, it's a pretty big a lot of moving parts, and it's well done. I'm sorry, Mr. Gibbons was there too. He was moving in different circles from me. I didn't see him at the event, but Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my report.
All right. Next meeting, September the 20th, 9 a.m. Back here at the Epicenter, and with that, we'll be adjourned.
Thank you.